So let's talk about Justin Amash. He's the libertarian/Republican who decided that the president actually did obstruct justice. And he's the first Republican to break and give the hope for impeachment to Democrats everywhere. What's your response?
Justin Amash should leave the Republican Party immediately, stat, ASAP. And listen, that gives me absolutely no joy in saying that. Matter of fact, it brings me misery, and I'll tell you why. I have been a vocal supporter of Congressman Amash for a very long time. I come from the libertarian wing of the party myself. I've been out there on radio hosting. I may have said it on this station before. I thought he was one of the more principled guys in Congress. It turns out he's the biggest phony up there right now. Either he doesn't understand the case, the totality of the case at all, or he's doing something to get his name in the media. Why? I don't know. Does he have bigger aspirations other than being a congressman? But there's absolutely nothing libertarian about claiming that an innocent man, President Trump, who did nothing wrong in this case, should be impeached and thrown out of office for fictitious crimes that didn't happen. It's outrageous he would even claim that.
Dan, the president did tweet about it. He said, "Never a fan of Justin Amash, a total lightweight who opposes me and some of our great Republican ideas and policies just for the sake of getting his name out there through controversy." If he actually read the bias Mueller report, composed by 18 angry Dems who hate Trump, he would see that it was nevertheless strong on no collusion and ultimately no obstruction. Anyway, how do you obstruct when there is no crime and, in fact, the crimes were committed by the other side? Justin is a loser who sadly plays right into our opponent's hands. Justin was tweeting over the weekend. He said, "President engaged in impeachable conduct." He said Bill Barr deliberately misrepresented Mueller. Why do you think he's doing this if he's a Republican?
You know, I don't know. Maybe he has some bigger aspirations and he wants to run against the president. Maybe he wants to be a senator. Obviously, it's some kind of media-grabbing kind of headline. I don't know. I can't figure it out. But what's libertarian about? You're supposed to support liberties, big R, God-given rights, and the Bill of Rights. When Donald Trump and his team, we absolutely know they were spied on. We know their Fourth Amendment rights. We know their rights were thrown out the window and trashed. And you're a libertarian supporting further potential criminal action down the line against the President of the United States? It doesn't make any sense. Is he unaware of this case, that a crime was fabricated out of thin air, out of weaponized police state assets that went after the president and his team? I mean, did he miss that whole story? And on this obstruction thing, it's absurd. The president told Jim Comey in Jim Comey's own notes to investigate people who were his satellites if he thought they did something wrong. And the deputy director of the FBI admitted up on Capitol Hill there was, quote, no effort to obstruct his investigation. What is Amash talking about? I mean, did he miss this entire case and just jump in at the end and send out a random tweet in the weekend because he was bored? I mean, it's really pathetic.
Well, you know, and Dan, the Attorney General of the United States, Bill Barr, has made it very clear. You know, he said spying did occur, and now they're they're investigating the investigators, and the Inspector General report's going to come out, so maybe we'll have some clarity there. Meanwhile, let's go ahead. We're gonna go in the Wayback Machine to 1994 when Joe Biden, the senator from the great state of Delaware, he was in the Senate. He was one of the sponsors of the crime bill, which these days he's trying to explain away why he supported it. Well, Bobby Rush, a Democrat from Chicago, we've latched onto some tape back a couple of years ago where he says that this crime bill was the worst thing to happen to the black community in 50 years. Listen to this.
I am ashamed of my vote. That was the worst vote, as I look back over the years, that I've taken since I've been in the Congress. Crack cocaine and the crime bill were the two worst issues, problems, catastrophes that the black community has suffered through in the last 50 years. I absolutely apologize for voting for that bill. We have not accomplished anything other than further destruction of our communities.
Dan, when Joe Biden was told about Rush's comments and asked if he was ashamed of the bill, he did not waver. What do you think?
Yeah, this is interesting because Biden's going to have to, during the primary season we're in now for the Democrats, he's going to have to run away from old Joe Biden and latch himself to new Obama Joe Biden as his vice president, right? Because some of his older votes were more from the moderate wing of the Democrat Party. And Steve, that's not where the Democrats are right now. Right. The energy is with the Bernie Sanders socialist types, right? Now, after the primary, if he gets out of it and wins, he's going to have to go back to old Joe Biden and exit the Obama-Biden vice president character because the Obama record was awful on the economy, Obamacare, and everything else. So he's got an interesting dilemma right now, but this is definitely not where the Democrats are. The energy is with the AOC, Bernie types and the socialists.
Here's the only thing different, and we got to run, but the only thing different is he's still got this huge lead. So if the Democrats are way to the left, why does he have a 20-point lead?
It's name ID only, Brian. Remember, on a primary, everybody's a Democrat. There's no other distinguishing characteristics other than your name. People see a name, that's who they go for. But that's going to change as the debates start. Polls mean nothing right now.
All right.
Okay.
Dan Bongino, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us today from Palm City down in Florida.